what's up everybody? How's it going? And welcome to GTAMA, Bushiro Robinson. And today I got another book I'd like to share with you. A great book that I've read, really influential. It's called The Book of Martial Powers. Now, this is a really cool book. I read it years and years ago. It was recommended to me by a really great friend of mine, great martial artist. You can actually go check him out on Instagram at the Shinobi Village. You'd be really impressed with what he's got going on. But yeah, so my friend, he was ranting and raving about this book, how great it was. He was actually a little disappointed to find it because he said that this is the book that he actually wanted to write. And I think that's a really cool concept. So I read the book and I was all up in arms about it. I actually went out and bought another copy so I could lend it to my friends because I don't lend this one out. But yeah, The Book of Martial Powers is written by Stephen J. Perlman, martial artist in his own right. And this is a really cool book because it's non-denominational. So it's not about karate, it's not about taekwondo, it's not about Muay Thai, it's not about jiu-jitsu, it's not about judo or BJJ or MMA or anything like that. But so what this book is, it's an outline of the principles that govern all martial arts. The introduction to this book, the author, he kind of gives a little history about himself. Trained in martial arts for years. He was practicing a specific style that said that it encompassed the best of all martial arts, and I'm sure that we've all heard some school propound that kind of ideology. So he was practicing this specific style that encompassed a lot of different styles of martial arts, and then he had a friend that practiced one style, one of the specific styles that his style was said to encompass. One day while training with that friend, he found that he was not able to defend himself proficiently. So that kind of sent him on a mission to discover a new truth. You know what I mean? Like, what works, what really works in martial arts, or better said, what makes martial arts work. And that he found that truth lies in principles. So this book outlines the principles of martial arts, and that's really cool. So I'm going to take a couple of videos to go over some of the principles because it's a really great book, but I won't get through all of them. I definitely won't get through all of them, but I won't get through all of them in one video for sure. So I'd just like to take a second to outline the first principle that is written in this book, and it's quite straightforward. It's called the principle of principles. So, the principle of principles is simple enough. We must exercise all principles at all times to our highest understanding and without exception. So in other words, we must approach martial arts from the perspective of principles. And we must do so uncompromisingly. This proves itself true because, as the previous chapter demonstrates, if we are not acting with principles, principles still will act on us. One way or another, principles do not merely have some effect on technique. Principles govern everything that happens. We can harness their power or be at their mercy. So in other words, recognizing a principle's value binds us to it. In fact, recognizing a principle relegates us to a certain line of reasoning, one that mandates a veritable plunge into deeper and deeper applications of that principle. Consider, for example, the principle of economical motion. Smaller, more efficient motions are better than larger, less efficient motions. In conclusion, the principle of principles has 4 elements. We must avoid the hypocrisy of disregarding or diminishing principles that we acknowledge as valid. Secondly, we must pursue each principle not until we understand it or express it good enough or satisfactorily, but rather tirelessly and infinitely towards perfection. Thirdly, we must pursue all principles simultaneously, as any sacrifice on any one principle violates number 2. And fourth, we must be deaf to expediency and ease. So that's the principle of principles from the Book of Martial Power. Every so often I'd like to come back, share another principle with you, and hopefully, like myself, it can kind of show you, perhaps it can point out some weaknesses or some flaws in your technique. Perhaps it can help you to streamline your techniques and find greater technique within your techniques, because there's a difference. And we will talk about the principle of technique versus techniques later on in this book. That's all the time we have for today. as usual, thank you for your time. Hopefully you've enjoyed. You found something useful and that you've learned something. But as always, respect each other, respect yourselves, and train hard.